Hello, and welcome to session 3 of 6 in our Improving Implementation Learning Module series. This session focuses on implementing data collection and monitoring as part of the Behaviour Support Plan. Our rationale for this session is that positive behaviour support is focused on evidence-based practice. In order to provide this evidence, careful and strategic focus must be placed on monitoring the effectiveness of the BSP as part of the implementation phase. And our objective is that learners will be able to determine key data collection checkpoints and monitoring stages to embed into the implementation of their BSPs. First, we need to have a reflection on how we monitor behaviour support plan success. If we look at this model put forward by Carr et al., we can see that there are 4 parts of positive behaviour support as an overarching science. We need to focus on systems and context. We need to use strategies that remove the need for the behaviour. We need to make data of the behaviour change, and we need to incorporate multiple theoretical systems. When we marry that into this current context, we know that the FBA establishes the understanding of the system in which the person lives. We know that the Comprehensive Behaviour Support Plan establishes the context, the modifications, and the strategies to support the person. We know that the implementation phase applies the theoretical systems that will underpin the interventions and strategies that we apply. But the monitoring in the implementation phase involves collecting the data to determine the accuracy and effectiveness of our approach to all these. And effective monitoring across the implementation period will give us an understanding of whether our FBA, our CBSP, and our implementation approach is accurate for the person. You can see a number of resources that support with understanding of our data collection methodology. Have a look at the PBS Microlearning Series, Data Collection and Implementation, and have a look also at the Foundation or Induction module number 12 that relates to data. It's important to recognise always that the behaviour support plan gives the indicators of what implementation should look like. And this can be a barrier when the behaviour support plan is already in place, but implementation has not been taken clearly into account. For those BSPs that are still in development, it's important to look at our consultation to know who our stakeholders are for the person. Look at our goals. What do we aim to achieve within that 12-month period so that we can monitor whether we are going to do that? Have a look at our restrictive practice protocol tables. They're going to give indications about timeline tasks and timeline framework so that we can measure whether we've achieved these. We need to look at our proactive strategies, our skill development, and our response strategies to see whether these have been implemented as required. And we need to look at the impact of those on the risk of harm. So, are these strategies we've put in place effectively reducing frequency, intensity, and duration of these risks? And we need to ensure that all of these are mapped in the implementation table to ensure stakeholder involvement. There's a couple of implementation considerations for the monitoring process. So, when we're planning out what our monitoring looks like across the calendar year, and the key questions we need to ask are: how effective is our behaviour support plan? And are our strategies successful? Looking at the bottom left, we think: how much time are we going to assign to monitoring? And when should the monitoring occur? What are the intervals? If we look at the top right of our page, we can see that behaviour support plan success is made up of an equation: fade out of restrictive practices, reduction in risk, and increase in quality of life equal BSP success. And we need to be able to measure that in both quantitative and qualitative ways. Sometimes the monitoring process is providing the information, sometimes it is collecting the information, sometimes it is inferring the information and analysing. So, which do we use and when? And it's important that the clinician considers this on a case by case basis. There is no one size fits all method. When we're designing our monitoring, it's important to think about, first of all, what are we going to measure? So we need to identify the key deliverables of the behaviour support plan. and identify the key aspects of risk and the behaviour of concern start points. So, where are we starting from? Is this a behaviour of risk that occurs daily? Is it a behaviour of risk that is causing significant or catastrophic risk of harm? Number two, look at your collection methods, and you have to design a methodology that fits with the particular case. A set plan, interviews, observations, survey responses, supplied behaviour data. Third, who needs to collect? Who needs to collect and monitor? Remember that stakeholders are the important links in the chain of data collection. So we need to link the data provision and the collection in with our key stakeholder meetings and our inputs to make sure that our stakeholders are providing the information when we need it and that we're providing it back to stakeholders. The aim of designing a monitoring structure is to plan for when you need the data and schedule backwards to ensure time to design, collect, and analyze to meet that deadline. And that can be a really good cue or a really good instruction to have in mind when you're looking at the yearly plan of a behaviour support plan. We could see here the sample implementation spreadsheet, implementation planner that you could choose to use as part of your process. And you can see weeks 1 to 52. Obviously, that's the nominal life of a behaviour support plan. What we would probably do is design our data collection against the key deliverable dates. And for Kate Patient here, you can see that the deliverable dates presumably sit around about weeks 21, weeks 34. That there are key situations here that we've planned backwards from. We've looked at the lead and the lag time for that. So we've got our report preparation in week 20. And then in week 19, we've got our analysis. But our collections are occurring in week 17 and 18 and back here in week 14. So we've planned backwards from what our deliverables are likely to look like. Each BSP is going to have its own data collection requirements because we've got our own deliverable dates. I also, when I'm designing this, I match it up with our care team meetings so that we're getting the data to them and that we also have some accountability for care teams to provide the data we need. So I may, in fact, have a care team meeting back here in about week 12 so that the data that I need for week 19 is provided to me. To plan for your data collection, you need to, first of all, understand your key stages. What is being measured and when? And this differs in every single plan. Second, design your data collection methods. We had a look before at some different ways to collect data, and the other micro learnings will give support on how to design your data collection methodology. How are we going to measure this particular aspect? You need to assign your timelines. And as I showed before, we work backwards from reportability. We need to assign responsibility. Who is going to provide data and when? And how can we get that accountability for that? And then we place the budget against it, noting time for creating, collecting, analysing, and reporting on data. For situations with significantly small plans, this may require conversation about a plan review, significant adjustment of monitoring and data methodology, or it may require other discussions about external data sources. So, our next steps, first of all, look at your BSP, identify the key measures, then look at the implementation subtasks and pick the ones that fit. For plans that are already in place, what data collection needs to be created immediately? We've got a behaviour support plan in place. We know we're going to have to report on that. What can we put in place between now and that reporting requirement so that we're collecting the right data? And think about that backwards chained task assignment. For the ones in progress, how do I write this in from the beginning? How do I design the data before I publish the BSP? Because undoubtedly that is the most strategic approach. Then, what upskilling do you need for your own data collection methods? What resources will you require? Remember that there are a number of resources available within our micro learning libraries, within our clinical frameworks in our organisation, and within our own supports from our teams. There are a number of microlearnings here available to all clinicians within the MedHealth brand, and I encourage you to focus on the ones that specifically look at data collection and implementation. Thank you.